Welcome to Six Sigma Black Belt, Course 2, Module 3, Team Training. Module 3, Lesson 2, Communication Skills for Project Teams. Barriers to effective communication. People usually want to communicate effectively with others, but there are many barriers that have to be overcome in order for this to happen. For example, there's filtering. Filtering is the deliberate manipulation of information to make it appear more favorable to the receiver, and it's common in communications with people in higher power positions or people we don't want to upset or anger. Selective perception occurs when the receiver in the communication process selectively hears or sees communications depending on his or her needs, motivations, experiences, background, or other personal characteristics. Selective perception is not a conscious decision. We all do it. Emotions, whether good or bad, happy or sad, excited or bored, can also influence how a message is sent or interpreted. Language can inhibit effective communication since words can mean different things to different people. This includes not only differences in language such as English versus Spanish, but also differences in terminology between different types of jobs, different companies, different departments, and so on. Nonverbal cues, such as body language and facial expressions, will reinforce a message if they are consistent with it. However, when these cues are not consistent with what's being said, such as smiling when bad news is being delivered, the receiver can become confused and the clarity of the message can suffer. Organizational status and power differences can also inhibit communication, especially when people are reluctant to pass bad news upward. Differences in goals and needs can inhibit communication, since people will perceive situations and messages in their own terms. Finally, inadequate formal communication channels reduce communication effectiveness, since the organization cannot communicate successfully as a whole. Six Sigma team leaders need to be aware of these potential barriers to communication among their project team members, so that they can work to reduce their negative impact. Overcoming barriers to communication. Here are some helpful techniques for overcoming these barriers to effective communication. First, use feedback. Ask message receivers to paraphrase back what you told them, but in their own words. When they simply repeat your words, there's no processing of the message and retention is less likely. Simplify your language. Avoid terminology that the receiver may not be familiar with. Use common words and phrasing. Constrain emotions. It's usually a good idea to delay important or complex communications until times when both the sender and receiver are less emotional. Watch nonverbal cues. Make sure that your body language and facial expression are consistent with your message. It's good to know your listeners. The more you know about their preconceptions, their experiences, education, and so on, the better you can tailor the message to ensure the correct interpretation. Finally, speak assertively. Assertive speaking. Assertive speaking is critical for effective communication. But what is it? Passive communicators accept messages without any response or resistance because they're afraid and believe they have no other choice. They act powerless and don't say what needs to be said for everyone to fully understand the situation. And this can result in poor team decisions being made due to a lack of needed information. On the other hand, aggressive communicators will typically show anger or emotion by speaking loudly or in a demanding voice. They try to dominate others through blame, criticism, or intimidation. Aggressive communicators do this because they're also afraid and believe they have no other choice, so they act powerful. However, this behavior only serves to block communication and can lead to conflict rather than understanding among team members. Assertive communicators, on the other hand, are always honest and speak openly and confidently. They say what needs to be said, calmly and unemotionally, and deal directly with the problem. As a result, Everyone on the team knows what they need to know to make the right decisions. 8 behaviors of active listeners. Effective communication is not just about the message being sent. It can't happen without commitment on the side of the message receiver as well. The listener must be willing to take responsibility for the completeness of the communication, and also be willing to do whatever's necessary to get the full intended meaning from the speaker's communication. This requires active listening. The following are tips for being an active listener. First, make eye contact. This focuses your attention and encourages the speaker. Also, avoid any distracting actions or gestures. Avoid actions that suggest that your mind is somewhere else, for example. Ask questions. Asking questions about what's being said provides clarification, ensures understanding, and assures the speaker that you're listening. Show empathy. Try to understand what the speaker wants to communicate rather than what you want to understand. Avoid interrupting the speaker. Let the speaker complete his or her message. Don't try to second guess where the speaker's thoughts are going. It's also good to paraphrase the speaker's words by repeating in your own words what you think the speaker has said, so that the speaker can confirm your interpretation. Finally, be sure to exhibit affirmative nods and appropriate facial expressions. This shows interest in what's being said and encourages the speaker to continue. Practicing these behaviors as both the sender and receiver of messages, both written and verbal, will help ensure effective communication among your Six Sigma team members. In the next lesson, you'll learn how to help your teams maintain healthy, constructive, and creative levels of conflict.